Hello, everybody, and welcome to my presentation. My name is André Storto. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Bergen, Norway. And the title of my talk today is Developing a Participatory Approach to Multilingualism and Multilingual Identity with School Children. Before I start talking about our research project, I thought it would be a good idea to introduce you to languages in Norway. So just a brief overview of languages in Norway. Norway has two official languages, Norwegian and Sami, an indigenous language spoken in northern Scandinavia. Norwegian has two written variants, Bokmål and Nynorsk, and also a rich dialectal diversity. And the use of dialects is encouraged and common in many domains of society. Children start learning English at school from year one, and the Norwegians are quite known for their proficiency in English for this reason. In addition, most Norwegians understand standard Danish and Swedish because of the typological proximity between the languages. And in the recent years, this rich linguistic scenario has been added by a host of immigrant languages. Yeah, just languages at school, just for you to have an idea. As I said, in school year one, students start learning both Bokmål and Nynorsk or Sami, depending on the area, and English as well. And then in school year 8, this is the focus of our study. They can opt for start learning another foreign language, which is usually Spanish, German, or French, or any other elective subject. So our research project, Ungsprok research project, is a 3-year mixed methods study that researches multilingualism in lower secondary schools in the area of Bergen. We have data from 7 different schools and 593 participants who took part in the first phase of our project. So in the first phase, we developed an online questionnaire asking students many questions about the languages they used and learned in and out of school, what they thought about learning languages, etc. But the focus of our talk today is going to be on the second phase of the project. One of the strands in the second phase are interactive sessions with pupils using data visualizations. So these interactive sessions were actually based on answers from the questionnaire. So students were interacting with data they helped generate. So this is the general outlook of the study, right? So just to let you know some of the motivations that led us to come up with these interactive sessions and with the data visualizations. The first one is ethics, because usually when you do research at schools literally open their doors to us. Researchers come in, collect their data, write their articles, publish their articles, attend conferences, and usually participants don't get to hear much about us, about the findings. I'm not saying this is always the case, but this is what usually happens. So we wanted to get back to the schools and give something back to them for participating. Knowledge, I think that there's an interesting loop in our research, because we present students with data they generated. So it's this, okay, this is what you think about multilingualism. What do you think about what you think? So the second level of reflection, I think, enriches the knowledge, not just our knowledge of the data, but also the students' knowledge about multilingualism, etc. And ultimately, we hope that these interactive sessions will somehow have a positive effect, a positive influence in the students' future language learning trajectories. Okay, so getting down to the more practical side of things, these are the questions we pose ourselves for this study. Yeah, how to present research findings to school children in such a way that they're engaged in exploring the data and have autonomy in interpreting the findings. In other words, we just didn't want to come into class and show them, okay, these are the results, what do you think? We wanted children actually to play around with the data, to formulate their hypothesis, to try out different possibilities, to discuss with their peers. So we wanted to do something more interactive and more engaging, and therefore helping them broader their understanding of multilingualism and multilingual identity. Okay, so this is where we're going to see today. So what you see at the top is the first phase of the project. The two print screens come from the online questionnaire. So this is what we used to make the visualizations below. Yeah. So this is what the visualizations are. The phase two, the phase we'll be discussing. These visuals here in blue, we won't be looking at them properly. We're going to be looking at some results of the data from the interactions, but not studying the graphs, the visuals per se. But what I'm going to do now is focus on this visualization on the left, because this is where the students spent most part interacting and discussing. So here are the links to the visuals in case you want to explore them later. And let me show you the visuals. The first visual, so that you have an idea of what they're about. Yeah, so this is the main visual we worked with. So it's a multi-level bubble graph, and the basic principle is categories within categories, or bubbles within bubbles, right? So we categorized 593 answers from the students that completing this prompt. To be multilingual means. And then we created this graph. So the categories on the left and on the right, they're static. You see that they don't move. Yeah. So the categories here, on the left, they have represent very short answers to this prompt. So for example, to be multilingual means to speak more than one language, more than two, more than three, etc. And they're categorized according to the verb. Category 1 is the verb is speak. Category 3, the verb is to know, etc. So where things begin to get fun is with the categories in the middle, which represent longer answers. So here, if you press go to task, you can sort out these categories into different main categories, bigger categories like the ones on the left and on the right. I'm not going to go over each category one by one, because this is going to take too much time. But suffice to say here that all these answers the students had somehow represent or map onto to different approaches we have in academia to multilingualism. So this is a very interesting finding. So this is the part of the activity where students group their categories. After they group their categories, we discuss this with them during the sessions, why they group it this way, that way, etc. And then here, when we click Save It, Compare Results, you can see how we researchers categorize their answers, and they can compare their categorizations with our categorizations. Here, the idea is not so much as to tell them what's right or wrong, but just to show to them how we made sense of the data they generated ourselves. So, and I would like you to pay attention to this category here, to have several to be multilingual means to use many languages in the family, because this is one of the categories we're going to be focusing when we do our data discussion. Yeah. Okay. So going back to the presentation. So these are the visuals. Yeah. So here are some details about the interactive sessions with the students. So I'll let you just read it. Okay, and this is the type of data we collected during the sessions. Right. So I would like now to just to discuss with you some of the findings we have. So this is some interaction with the prompts we have in the visual. A third layer I didn't show to you while I was presenting the video were like prompts that while students hovered the mouse over the categories, these prompts about each category showed up so that they could reflect and then discuss with a peer and register their answers on a short online survey. I want to focus on this category, languages in the family, because of this word flerspråklig, which in Norwegian means multilingual, but in Norwegian educational context, it has a connotation of students with immigrant background who generally struggle to learn Norwegian are flerspråklig. So they are the multilinguals. But, and usually no people who are raised and born in Norway and have this rich linguistic repertoire as well, usually don't identify as multilingual. So we wanted to know what students thought about this. So this is the prompt they were answering to. Many multilinguals use different languages in the family. Would you say that a person who only uses one language at home can also be multilingual? Explain why or why not. In Norway, it is common to call people with immigrant background multilingual. Can you think of other people who can also be called multilingual? So here are some of the students' reflections to these prompts. The first one, I'll let you read for a few seconds. Yeah, I find this answer very interesting because even though it seems that the respondent misinterpreted the question, I think the participant has a very nuanced view of multilingualism and the different possibilities of identifying oneself as being multilingual. So in this case, a hypothetical person with a Norwegian and immigrant background, and having these two languages occurring simultaneously in the family. Another reflection that I find interesting, again, a few minutes just to read what the participant said. Yeah, as I said before, one of the interesting things of using real research data with children is that it's easier for them to relate their own personal lives and practices with the data. So in this case, the student starts reflecting about, okay, it's important, most multilinguals speak a foreign language or more than one foreign language at home. But then in the end, he or she concludes that it also depends about how the frequency of language use outside school as well. So I think this is also a very interesting reflection. So just some again, what I'm showing to you is just a fraction of the data. So some reflections about this other question. These were the graphs in blue that we didn't see properly, but during the sessions, we asked students to guess how many answers in the questionnaire were yes, no, or not sure to this question. And after they made their guesses, we showed the real data to them. So a lot of students said they consider themselves multilingual, and just 55 said no. And then after we discussed this, we asked them this question. So in total, 55 students said they were not multilingual. Does that number surprise you? Were you expecting it to be higher or lower, and why? So again, let's not forget here that these are students interpreting their own data. So let's have a look what they said here from the survey. Yeah, one of them says, well, again, you can read it by yourselves. So yeah, this is a typical answer that brings into to bear the languages learned in school, also the fact that Danish and Swedish are very similar languages, and this participant is not surprised at all. Yeah, another answer that I find interesting, but that diverges somehow from this view. Uh, Sorry, no, it's not this one. It's this one. Yeah. Yeah. So here, it's a trend that we found in the data. So most students said, okay, most people consider that learning or knowing English and Norwegian is enough to be considered multilingual. Yeah, but again, this participant is not surprised by the low amount of students who said they were not multilingual. So he expected the number to be even lower. Yeah, this answer here I find really interesting. Again, a few minutes for you to read it. Yeah. So again, here Norwegian and English and two languages as being enough to be considered multilingual, but this participant has a different conclusion. So he's not really sure if speaking just two languages is enough, even though he's probably not aware of all these other languages and variants that Norwegian children usually know. And this last one reflection I showed to you, I think it's quite interesting. Again, 1 or 2 seconds to read. Yeah, like here again, it's the same pattern of interpretation, but what I find interesting is this idea. Okay, just learning a language at school is not enough. You need something more to be considered multilingual, even though the participant doesn't say what. But what I find interesting here is that he assumes that most students said they were multilingual because of the languages they learned at school, but he somehow disagrees with this view that just learning languages at school is enough. So this was just a brief overview of the data. I think we're running out of time, so we can stop here. Uh, this is where you can find more about the interactive sessions and the visuals. Um, these are some references to our study and to the interactive sessions. Obrigado pela atenção. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to discussing this in more detail with you in the question and answer session. Thank you for listening.